Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's Science Dean Speaker Series panel for Medical Laboratory Science. This is a new program coming to GCU starting this fall, and we are really excited about it. I'm also especially excited about our panel today and our program director, Professor Kara Hansen-Suchy, who's going to get us started. Before we continue? Yeah.
Sure. Hi, everybody, and thank you for coming. I know some of you are a captive audience, but that's okay. We're just glad you're here. We're going to talk a little bit about this brand new program being offered here at GCU, starting in the fall, but probably if you're a freshman, you wouldn't be starting until the following year. So I thought you might like to know what an MLS is. What they do, what you will learn, and most importantly, probably what you will earn is always a consideration as a college student. So as a medical technologist, you basically are a member of the healthcare team. You're highly skilled, highly trained. You're going to be doing complex laboratory testing, as well as, oh my gosh, I can't read that far away. Oh, let me look here. You're going to be working with sophisticated instrumentation. You're going to guarantee quality assurance, execute data analysis and interpretation, and implement research and development are all facets of this. But most importantly, as a member of the healthcare team, you're going to facilitate diagnosis, treatment, and prevention of disease. So it has been estimated that 70% of medical decisions are based on laboratory results. So we do play an integral role in the healthcare team. Also, all of this leads to improved patient outcomes, and that's why we're all here. So you do need to hold a Bachelor of Science degree, and we do highly encourage you to obtain your national certification. Some states do have licensure. To avoid confusion, if you are interested in this and you want to look more into it, we do go by a variety of names. So if you encounter the term medical technologist or clinical laboratory scientist, that is the same as a medical laboratory scientist. So prerequisites here on campus. How many of you guys are like majoring pre-med or pre-dental, nursing? Okay, all of the prerequisites are going to look very, very similar here. So we do have biology requirements, anatomy and physiology, 2 semesters, as well as a semester in general microbiology. Additionally, if you are accepted into the program, we do encourage medical terminology, if you haven't heard that in the past, and immunology. Chemistry, 2 semesters of Gen Chem, 1 semester of bio, although organic chemistry is perfectly acceptable. Math requirements are college algebra and statistics. Subjects within the degree. This is where you're going to learn all about what goes on in the laboratory. So it's divided into different departments, basically. The main departments are typically medical microbiology, clinical chemistry, which is typically highly automated, hematology and hemostasis, the study of blood, the study of how blood clots, transfusion medicine and blood bank, as well as urinalysis and other body fluid analysis. We do molecular diagnostics, immunology and serology testing, as well as getting into management and supervision, because this degree will allow you to progress upwards in that area if that's something that you choose to do. We go into instrumentation. We're going to have an awesome simulation lab before you go out into the real world. We also are going to have a research and education component and a clinical experience portion, or practicum is involved in this. Okay. And the awesome thing about this is you guys, after you complete your junior year, which is laboratory intensive, I'm not going to lie, there's a lot of labs in this, okay? And you go out and you perform your clinical experience, you are eligible to get a job. And believe me, you will be hired. And then your senior year, you can complete the program all totally online. So if you are from out of state and you want to move back to Montana and get a job there, you can complete your degree requirement totally online your senior year. I'm going to let the panel talk about the hard and soft skills desirable for this profession. And just to let you know, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the demand is very strong with a growth potential of 5 to 10% per year, which is much faster than average. On top of this, there's a national shortage. And the programs that are in place cannot produce enough graduates to cover the demand of the job. And I do want to let you know about wages. So here we go. These are just from the last week that I pulled off of Indeed. And you can see this is Mayo Clinic, and the salary range offered is up to $45 an hour. Okay. This one is from Valleywise, a little bit lower overall, but notice that $10,000 sign-on bonus is there. Okay. Lead medical technologist through the VA is up to $130,000. This comes, of course, with maybe a couple years' experience under your belt before you get that. Okay. Travel opportunities are also available for a very nice, tidy sum of money. Okay. And then this I wanted to show you. So having your degree in medical laboratory science and getting that certification will earn you considerably more salary. So you notice the research technologies position, you could get that with a degree in chemistry or biology, but your earning potential is going to be significantly less. And you can make a huge impact as a healthcare professional and being a part of the team. Okay. Thank you very much. My email is up there if you want any more information, as well as the website that is now on GCU. You're welcome to check that out. Don't look at the creepy guys. We want to get that picture changed. But other than that, it's got some good information on it. So thank you.
So I am Vanmali. I'm the Assistant Dean of Science over in the College of Natural Sciences, which I am assuming you all belong to because of our captive audience situation, right? And so I am really happy to welcome you all to this event today, and I'm really excited to introduce to you two of our panelists. There is a third one. We're not sure what's going on. We're hoping everything is okay. We pray for that, right? Because she hasn't made it here yet, and that's not like her. So we may have a really fun addition in a little while, we hope. But I want to introduce first our panelists down at the end. That is Julie Stiak. And Julie is the District Director of Workforce Education for the Maricopa County Community College System Districts. And the MCCCD, there are 3 C's in there, serves over 175,000 learners across one of the largest community college systems in the United States. Julie has over 22 years of experience in higher education in various positions like faculty, program director, associate dean, interim dean, district director, roles working for healthcare education and workforce and economic development. So she's really focused in on what are the jobs that we really need more of here in the Valley, and how can we best help our Arizona citizens and others prepare for those careers. She's created 4 unique training programs for medical and histologic technicians at Phoenix College. and she was a laboratory administrative director for Boswell and Del E Webb Memorial Hospitals before she joined higher education to prepare the next generation. She has a master's in educational technology and a bachelor's of science in MLS from Arizona State. So please welcome Julie. We are also really excited to welcome Anthony Gongora to campus. And Anthony lives here in Phoenix and for the last 6 years. He has been working as a medical lab technician during that whole time. He graduated with the Medical Laboratory Technology program from El Paso Community College in 2018, which means, if you guys are still getting familiar with these ideas, it's the 2-year degree program. And he really, really loved the program that he was in, and he really, really loves the work that he does now. And he was at BTMC. Thank you, the Banner Thunderbird campus for 5 years after he graduated, and he joined Valleywise Health 6 months ago. Timely with that ad that we just saw posted, which is a coincidence. He's currently working on an MLS degree, so his bachelor's in MLS with the University of Arkansas for Medical Sciences, online, I assume, and he'll be graduating next spring. So he'll be able to share even more at that time.
Just another caveat is once you're employed, a lot of employers will pay for your education to get that higher degree. So just another little fun fact.
So I'll start with you, Professor Hansen. Does that mean that if our students get the 2-year MLT and start working like Anthony did, their employer could potentially help them pay for the bachelor's degree?
Indeed, yeah, that is true. That is
Okay.
true. So, yeah, and they do encourage you to pursue your education, and with that, your earnings increase.
In lieu of a third panel member right now, we're going to use Professor Hansen. I mean, we hope she can answer all my questions, right? So let's just jump right in, and I'll ask at least Julie and Anthony, if not you too, Professor, to answer this first question. What inspired you to pursue a career in MLS, and how has your journey been so far? So who wants to go first?
I guess I'll start. First of all, it is so incredibly inspiring to see each and every one of you. You have such great futures ahead of you. The bioscience industry and healthcare are the 2 fastest growing industries in our region. And your degree is transferable across the country and across the world. So what inspired me, I come from a very large family, 7 kids, and we used to always have our dinner time conversations. We first talk about God, and then we talk about what are you going to do to have an impact on others. And my oldest sister became a doctor. My second oldest sister became an intensive care nurse. I have a twin sister. She also chose nursing, and I thought, I'm stubborn. I got to do something different. So I researched and found what could I do that I could really give back to the community and have a fulfilling career. And it was between medical laboratory science and physical therapy. And this isn't going to be really scientific, but I had a full ride scholarship, and I could go to NAU's physical therapy program or Arizona State University's medical lab science program, because Grand Canyon didn't have their program. Otherwise, this would have been my choice. And I just thought my quality of life, I love the heat, so I thought I'd be happy with either, and that's how I chose. Now, that's probably not really as scientific as you would think, but you've got to also be happy. And so I had the opportunity of being mentored by Kara. Yes, we have known each other since our college days. She was in the Medical Laboratory Science program the year above me. And that's one thing I want to share with all of you, is that having a degree where you're actually learning and applying your skills, and you have a cohort that cares about your success, your instructors care about you, that is powerful. And so that's why I've really gravitated towards programs that are really having these cohort models, because you were in class probably 35 hours a week, studying almost every evening and weekends, because you're learning a lot. But what's different about this program is any employer will look at you and say, oh my gosh, you already have not only the knowledge, but the clinical skills that you have demonstrated. So they're going to hire you on the spot. Technically, this is a 3-year degree program if you think about it, because you could be working. Your employer then will pay for your 4th year while you're completing it online. A 3-year degree program would be fabulous. How many of you can say that you're curious? Okay. How many of you like to figure out problems or think about solutions that you can be a part of? Okay. How many of you like to continue learning? Okay, then you have the skills and attributes to be a phenomenal medical laboratory scientist. Arizona Healthcare Association and the Greater Phoenix Chamber just convened a panel, and medical laboratory scientists are in the top 7 needs for every type of healthcare specialty locally. So you are already in high demand. So that's why I continue to be inspired by the profession. I never thought when I'd be talking with Kara about, can I make it through this program? This is tough. I never thought my career journey would be like it was. True story. I was working in the laboratory. I was a clinical chemist. That was my specialty because I loved always learning the new technologies. Oh, that's the other thing. Anybody like computers? Okay, you can have a future career making 6 figures, starting out, helping hospitals, medical laboratories, research laboratories set up their informatics and instrumentation. There's so many ways you can go. So I was 6 months into my career, and I'm sorry, Kara, am I going on too long? So real quickly, I'll let Anthony answer the question. 6 months, the laboratory director says, hey, Julie, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I looked at him and I said, you're here at least 14 hours a day. I never want your job as the lab director. But guess what? 7 years later, I became the lab director. Because what were the skills we talked about? I was curious. I like to help solve problems. I like to make the world a better place. Wanted the lab to be a better place for all of us, so I became a lab director. And then when we had our staffing shortages that continue to this day, as Kara has mentioned, I said, I've got to be a part of the solution. So I went into academia and created 4 different training programs to make sure there was a talent pipeline for laboratories. So, thank you. I'll turn it over to Anthony.
I think it's safe to say she's still very inspired by her work. No pressure, Anthony.
No pressure at all. Okay. Well, to be honest, I've always wanted to work in healthcare. I just didn't know exactly what to do. So, and to be honest, when I was 18, I went straight to university, in El Paso, and I was going for a bachelor's in biology, just like you guys are. I was 20, 21. But to be honest, I really didn't know what I was going to do with that degree. I didn't know what career choices there were out there. So I decided and I kind of went back and I was like, I think I had a better opportunity at getting my associates. That way I can get straight into the workforce and start working. So, I mean, there's different programs you can choose. There's sonography, there's radiology. So there's all these programs you can choose, but the one I chose was laboratory. And the funny reason why I chose this is that it sounded cool. The lab, like, the lab, like Dexter's lab or something. So I got into that program. It was 2 years. It was a great program. I learned a lot, so they really trained me to work in the workforce once I graduated. So once I got my degree, I moved here to Phoenix and everything. And it's been a great year working and everything. So now I'm working to get my MLS, so there are ways, to get your bachelor's and everything. So it's been good and everything so far. And, right now, like, since I'm in school, like Julie said, you're actively learning still, because not only am I working on the job, that's when I use my time to, like, study and everything. So whenever I'm working, I apply whatever I'm learning in school to the job that I'm working at now. So it's been great. So this is my first panel too. So never had a panel before. So it's been good and everything. So I'm glad you guys are here. So thank you for having me.
Well, you're doing a great job. Right, everyone? Yeah. See, you're both doing a great job. Can you follow that up, Professor?
Yes, I will follow that up with a very simple statement. I knew I wanted to do something in healthcare to give back, but I didn't necessarily want to empty bedpans or work with sick people because, they can be crabby at times. So the laboratory environment spoke to me with that. There is still some patient contact, but much less.
Thank you all. Let's move on. Can you share some rewarding aspects and insights into the day-to-day responsibilities and challenges of a medical laboratory scientist, please? Do we want to start on this side this time? Or do we want to start with Anthony? Yes.
Well, there's a lot of rewarding things. Since I work at Valleywise, I work in the areas of hematology and chemistry. And hematology is my favorite one. So hematology is where you look at the blood cells, the white blood cells. You see what they look like in various conditions, such as leukemia and everything like that. So I guess a rewarding aspect is when, and sometimes when the patient comes in and everything, they get a CBC differential, and you're basically the first one to diagnose them. I know we're not doctors or anything, but you're the first one to look at their cells and be like, that's leukemia. And it's sad to call the nurse and say, hey, this is leukemia. We're going to send this to pathology. So I remember, several times, it'll be children that come in, CBC and everything, they have leukemia. So of course it's hard to give the information to the nurse and everything. But I remember that same patient would keep coming back and their CBC became normal. The name looked familiar and everything to me. So it was just nice to, you give that diagnosis, but you also see that their patient is getting better. So that was a rewarding part of it too. So even though you don't get acknowledged for it or anything like that, it's still rewarding and everything. So you just acknowledge yourself that, hey, I'm the one who found the leukemia first and everything. So that's very rewarding too in it.
Oh, there's so many rewards. What's unique about this field is that if you enjoy doing the similar things each and every day, there's a great place for you in laboratories. If you are constantly wanting to challenge yourself, learn different things, get into management, get into becoming a representative for a company that manufactures instrumentation or the whole informatics system, you can then develop a career in that pathway. You can get into education, just like Anthony is, so there's so many different areas you can go into depending on your interests and your curiosity. We have a lot of great research opportunities also right here, being one of the top biotechnology hubs in the country. There's hundreds of companies that would love to hire you, because if they see somebody with the Bachelor's of Science in chemistry or microbiology, they'll interview them and say, well, tell me more about your lab experience. And all they can say is, well, I had student lab. I know they might have been in the cadaver lab, which is really cool too. Yet, this program would prepare you for careers that aren't even known right now. It's rewarding because you do see you make a difference. I will tell you, one of the rewards is similar to Anthony is, I remember working in the laboratory one evening, and one of my colleagues said, Julie, look at this specimen from this patient. It was a stat urgent request from surgery, and when we centrifuged the sample, it was 100% hemolyzed. This patient was on the surgical table. So I said to her, we've got to call into that OR suite. This patient is in the middle, I couldn't diagnose, but we know the patient basically was dying while on the table. She had undergone what's called disseminated intravascular coagulation, and we knew it from how the sample looked. So this person was really reluctant. I can't bother the surgeon. I just said, you've got to. They need to know. And sure enough, a couple hours later, that surgeon came up to congratulate my colleague and said, you saved this patient's life. We were in the middle of surgery, so we had no idea this life-threatening condition was going on, except for you being observant and taking that extra step to communicate with us. So you really do make a difference each and every day, and there's something that's just so valuable about that. Challenges could be, how many of you like to work the overnight shift? Oh, one. Okay, well, good. We'll hire you to work that night shift. But what's great about that is most of the hospital laboratories will pay you a 25% additional salary just to work night shift. I could never function that way. But just so you know that it's a 24/7 operation. So in a laboratory, so you do have to work some holidays. You just have to recognize that if you work in a hospital laboratory. If you work at a research lab or a reference lab, there may be different hours. Some of you might be able to become a medical laboratory science for a group of physicians, like the physician I go to. They have their own lab. And so one of my younger colleagues, Kara, is the lab manager for that lab. So it's great. And they get to work Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to about 4 p.m. So there's lots of different, but just so you know that sometimes when you start out in the profession, you might have to start at evening shift, but you'll get more money, especially if you work night shift over there in the Pink Hat. And so glad there's some of you that are interested. But that's the other opportunity, is sometimes you can work 4 10-hour shifts and have 3 days off every week. So there's great opportunity.
So I heard a couple of really important things there. One being that we might want to give medical laboratory scientists superhero capes.
Yes.
Yeah? I feel like those stories that you both shared are very deserving of that, because lives are saved when you're doing your job, right? And that's, I think, what everybody who's going into healthcare professions cares about, is how do I positively impact others? And it sounds like you do that in very meaningful ways through your expertise and your knowledge. So thank you for that. The other thing that I heard was, if you're willing to work the overnight shift and you start at $48 an hour, you'd be making $60 an hour working the overnight shift.
Yes, you would.
I might want to do that. I don't know about y'all, but that sounds pretty good. Yeah. Do you want to add anything to this, Professor?
Sure. I will add that I have done so many different and rewarding things with this degree. So I was a manager, a supervisor at Mayo Clinic for many departments, but I've also participated in performing bone marrow transplants and stem cell transplants for the Hematopoietic Stem Cell Laboratory. I've worked for an instrument manufacturer and done a lot of traveling around the country. What else have I done? Education. That's my last one. And that has been by far my favorite. I've loved everything I've done, but education and teaching the next generation to take over in the laboratory is my favorite thing to do.
I have insider knowledge. Professor, would you tell us why you came to GCU?
I should have not come to GCU because I was retired, okay? But I came back into the workforce to start up this program because I am so passionate about students. And the need for this profession is so huge, you guys. So take advantage. Get in on the ground floor. Do it.
Yeah, so we told her what an impact she could make, Dr. Vala and I, and that, she could really impact her chosen profession, but make the lives of so many young people better by giving them really good real-world skills and jobs that pay well right out the door with your bachelor's degree, which is getting harder and harder to do. And she said, I need to do that, and we are so lucky to have her. But yeah, insider knowledge, it helps.
Yeah, I came to campus and saw the awesome resources here and said, I'm in. Hands down, I'm in.
No, the story that I heard was she saw the students and said, I'm in. Because we do, we have the best students. Just another aside. Yeah. So next question. How do advancements in technology impact the field of medical laboratory science, and how do you stay updated with these changes? I think all three of you alluded in different ways to needing to want to continue learning. How do you do that? Because your field, COVID's a great example. If you want to bring that in, you can, but how do you keep up?
Well, I was recalling that your wonderful president, Dr. Mueller, packed many of your students into buses to cheer on the Grand Canyon University basketball game. They were their first ever in the NCAA tournament. I was cheering for them. I had them in my March Madness pool. But similarly, going to conferences together, and maybe there'll be that opportunity. There's always great learning opportunities locally. So take advantage of those. There's lots of online webinars that you can do for continuing education. There's always big national conferences that are usually about a week long, and they're at different cities. And I can't tell you enough how much I learned within the conference and outside the conference. Being able to see cities like Washington, D.C., Boston, Savannah, Georgia, and being able to explore other parts of the country while you're doing your continuing education is really fascinating. I always tell my students and all of my employees, when I was a laboratory director, spend 20 minutes a day. Just 20 minutes a day. Read an article. Look at different companies and maybe what jobs they're offering. Not to leave my laboratories, but just to see what you might want to be doing in your next step. So can you find 20 minutes in your busy day? I know as students, many of you are working. You probably are taking care of family members, plus being in your university programs. But find that 20 minutes every day just to learn something unique about the field, and you'd be amazed. That's why everybody, when I was really young in my career, came to me, because they knew that if I didn't know the answer, I would look it up and figure it out and then share that information with others. So it can be as easy as 20 minutes a day for yourself. I know your wonderful associate dean and I were walking over together, and she was sharing with me the importance of you taking even 15 minutes a day just to connect with nature. Go out on this beautiful campus and just take your shoes and socks off. Your grass is just wonderful. Really connect with nature and how that just changes your perspective. So those are some recommendations I have.
Okay, so like I said, I've been working as a MLT for 6 years and everything. So there's different instruments that you use for in the lab. You have your hematology analyzers, you have your chemistry analyzers, blood bank analyzers, and everything. So they have been pretty much the same since I've been working. But at Valleywise they made a brand new hospital, so everything is brand new lab, brand new instruments, and everything. So the instruments now are becoming more automated. So you just put in your sample, it runs. It gets the results to the patient faster, so you have less work involved with it and everything. So, and then what was the other thing? And then how do you stay updated is with continuing education credits. So when you do work at the hospital, your employer, you're gonna have a certain number of education credits. Each one varies and everything. So that's how you stay updated. There's just in healthcare, there's just you choose the little seminar that you want to attend, for whichever one you choose, and then there's just a vast variety to choose from. So and then it just shows what's going on in healthcare, how you stay updated, and then you use those credentials once you get your certification. You can use those credits to get your certification every 3 years it will expire. So you have to have a certain amount every year. So that's just how I stay updated. There's just everything's always changing in healthcare. And I remember my professor when I did my MLT, she said, work in the lab, it's always going to change, and you're always going to have to go with it. And trust me, the lab has changed so much. But it's for the good, you just continue to learn and everything.
Well, and just a little tidbit of information. We know that in life sciences, you're all biology majors, I think, of some kind, probably. In life sciences, we know right now that the amount of information that's new coming out is doubling every few years. And what that means is whatever area of life sciences you're going to be going into, and all of our healthcare professions are part of that, you're going to have to keep up. And so finding a way that works for you, whether it's 20 minutes a day or taking additional classes, and of course keeping up with your CE credits, is really important. And it's something you should be thinking about now. How do you work that into your life? Anything you want to add, Professor? No? Okay, we can go on to the next question then. And Anthony, we'll start with you on this one, so be ready. What opportunities for specialization or career advancement exist within the field of medical laboratory science?
Yeah, well, there's lots of advancements in everything. Usually a lot of people start off, in phlebotomy. So if a lot of people will start on phlebotomy, they'll decide to go back to school to get their 2-year MLT degree, and then they'll continue to get their MLS and everything. So I started with my MLT, now I'm getting my MLS. And then even once you get your MLS, there's a lot more you can do, if you want to be a supervisor, if you want to be, shift lead, or you want to be coordinator, and, you could even be the lab director if you wanted to, so there's just so much more. And then not only working in the lab, you can do what Kara does. You can start up the program here. So there's just, so much, that you can do. So, and it's, like I said, it's very rewarding. You work with different people and everything. I've known Kara for 3 years. 3? Yeah, 4 years and everything. But we worked at Banner, and I always call her my weekend buddy. Because, it was always us two on the weekend. So you just meet a lot of great people along the way. So that's what I would say.
Please.
Okay, thank you. Well, first of all, remember Kara listed all the different departments within a clinical laboratory. So you love microbiology. You could get a specialty in microbiology. And then that would allow you to be able to maybe be that technical specialist. So you'd be the one that would then be deciding which instrumentation you should be bringing into your laboratory. You'd probably be responsible for training and providing continuing education on that specialty. So keep that in mind. You can just keep diving into a specialized area. We've already talked about it. I mean, there are opportunities where you can go into leadership if you're so interested. You could be a manager of a specific department. You could continue to grow and be a supervisor in multiple areas like Kara was. You could become the lab director, the big cheese, and oversee every one of those departments. You can go into education. Industry, there's so many opportunities because I can't emphasize enough that you finish your degree in medical laboratory science at Grand Canyon University, the career opportunities for you are so much higher. You could really write your own ticket for what you want to pursue. And for those of you, I can't wait to find out how artificial intelligence might impact the future of medical laboratory science. So maybe you could be that pioneer looking at AI in medical laboratory science. We're already involved in 70% of every healthcare decision. So maybe you could even extend that influence to make it almost probably 90% impact on all healthcare decisions. The technology is just spellbinding. The other thing too with medical lab science is you're at the forefront. Who likes technology and your computers? If you get into the medical laboratory science, yes or no, because you're saying no? Okay, then this is for you because most of the breakthrough technologies in healthcare come through the clinical laboratory. It was one of the first departments to really become integrated with informatics. And that's why 70% of healthcare decisions are based on what you do, because we figured out really early how to capitalize on that. So it's just so exciting. And the fact that, you know, they're also going to be doing different technologies with figuring out diseases. So if you want to research diseases, translational genomics, which is just a few miles down the road in downtown Phoenix, they would love your skills to be able to figure out how to not just cure, but prevent some of the diseases that befall us. They're doing some great work with melanoma, which used to be, unfortunately, a death sentence. And now they've developed successful treatments, and it was some of our colleagues with our training that helped that research. So I can't tell you the exciting opportunities that would open up for you.
Something about a superhero cape, right? Okay. I'm going to piggyback a question on this and ask you to answer it for us, Professor Hansen, because it sounds like there are lots of opportunities for advancement. Do you need additional education? Are there graduate degrees? Because some of us just like to collect degrees.
Yes, you can collect plenty of degrees in this profession if that's what you choose. There are several master's programs around the country. A lot of them are all online. And just recently, within the last 5 years, we have added PhD programs as well. So it's limitless as far as you want to take it. And I just wanted to say, every one of those departments that we spoke of, you can specialize in. I have my specialist in hematology, which was basically an additional year of study. I love blood. You can see by my blood earrings here, I drip blood. But yeah, so lots of opportunities.
She's the only person I know that loves blood. Oh. Okay.
Hematology too, so.
Oh, well. I don't.
I call it a cross between science and art because it is a very visual discipline, and you do need creativity and artistic endeavors to succeed in hematology.
That's where I'm lacking. Just saying, the artistic piece. Yeah. Well, I was going to ask another question, but I've been doing all the asking. I wasn't sure if anyone in here had some questions that they would like to ask. And if you would, how will...
We have the microphones over there. You know what to do.
Okay. Does anyone have questions? You look like you want to ask a question, don't you? Okay. Can you bring a mic over here, please? He looks tall, too. Yes. So she knows where she's going. Oh, you guys were both tall. See, so she needed the distinction.
So besides classes to take, what are the other things you have to do or GPA requirements you need to be accepted to the program?
That's an outstanding question.
Right now, our GPA requirement is a 3.0, and it's since this is a brand new program, if you have a 3.0, the chances of you getting into the program are really, really good. There are a few character traits that most people consider them to be beneficial for this area. If you're organized, if you're detail-oriented, some people think that in the laboratory we are all reserved, introverted geeks. Okay, that is true to some extent, but not all. Okay, we do have extroverts in our field. Julie would be an example of an extrovert, as well as Anthony here. So you're not pigeonholed by any means.
I used to work in a lab, too, as a graduate student. Not with blood, though. Other questions? Over here, please. Oh, there's someone coming up from behind you. Thank you.
Hello. So, in terms of research, because you all have been looking into blood or worked with blood to some degree, have you guys looked into like gene therapy stuff for any blood disorders like leukemia, sickle cells, etc.?
Another really good question.
Yes, and so typically hospital laboratories are more clinical oriented rather than research oriented, but you're always doing research on new technologies, and so you might have a instrument that's doing coagulation testing, but there's a brand new technology that's just been released to market. And so if you're somebody who really likes to do that research, they might assign you to evaluate the clinical efficacy of that new instrument to be able to detect and better manage, coagulation-related treatments and diseases. As far as genetics, yes, molecular diagnostics, that's all genetics. Now, as far as gene therapy, where you're actually doing the medical treatment, that's probably going to be more in a specialized research. You might have, like, for example, Banner, I always forget the name. No, the big one, Banner University Medical Center. See, I always remember all the old names. They have some research labs. So does Dignity Health's St. Joseph's. They do some of the foremost neurological research in the world. And so there are specialized labs that you would be able to do research. And some of it is genetic. That translational genomics, it's all genetic research. Does that help you?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for your interest.
Related to that, then, if you're working, for instance, if you become a medical laboratory scientist instead of going into becoming a doctor or a nurse, for instance, if you're working with doctors who do gene therapy, you're going to be the one doing the genetic manipulations, right? Like in vitro or however before the treatment is given to the patients. So you will still be very intricately involved at literally the molecular level. Yes. Okay, just making sure. Okay.
And that's a phenomenal question you asked, because that's really where we think medical laboratory science is going, is being able to prevent the disease. And you're right, they have done some remarkable research with sickle cell anemia, and there are genetic treatments that are being done right now, and it's been successful. It's also still painful for the patient to go through, but you're right, you could be that researcher helping with that next phase to truly prevent sickle cell anemia, which is a devastating disease.
I just had a question. I'm just going to piggyback off of him. He's the genius. I'm just asking follow-up questions. I was just thinking about this. If you get a bachelor's in medical lab science, would it make you a strong candidate for graduate research programs? What do y'all think? I'd never thought of this before, but like, you literally inspired this question. So, no, thank you.
Oh, absolutely. If I was the key researcher for a laboratory, I would definitely hire somebody who has those applied practical skills. And Kara made a really good point. This profession, you use the right and left hemispheres of your brain. And that's what I love, is that you've got to be people-focused, but you also, and so that's why you are going to be a great future researcher, because you've got that compassion, that you want to help others, and you also have that scientific acumen. So it's really just, to me, that's why I never tire of it, because it uses every part of your being, your heart, your soul, your mind, and like I said, both sides of your brain.
Do you want to add anything to this, Professor? Or Anthony?
Well, I wanted to add to that. So even though we're medical lab scientists, you basically do 3 jobs in one. And by that, I want to say, first, you are the detective. You're trying to see what is going on with the patient, trying to diagnose. You think back, like in school, like, oh, what's going on? So, you're a detective, and then you also have to learn the theory behind the testing that you do. So you got to know all your normal values, what's critical, what is not, what looks normal, what doesn't. And then you also, the third part is being the tech, meaning all the instruments that you use, they're eventually going to break down. And you're the one who's going to have to fix them. You're going to have to learn, you might have to call service and everything. So if you don't, if those instruments are down, those patients don't get the results. So that's why I like to say, you do 3 jobs in one, is what I like to say.
They all sound like cool jobs. Professor, did you want to add anything?
I don't think I can expand on anything that more that the panel has elaborated on, but just that the opportunities with this degree, if you are up for a job and you have your certification and your competition does not, you are going to get that job. Okay, your clinical skills, your critical thinking skills are going to be so far superior to anybody else on the planet. So,
Do we have other questions? In the back of the room, please.
Hi. What was the longest case you've ever worked on?
What was the longest case you've ever worked on? Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, looks like Kara's going to pipe in. So Remember she talked about transfusion medicine and blood bank? So if somebody needs to receive blood products, it's a foreign agent that you're putting into patient's body. So oftentimes patients develop antibodies. And so we had a patient, I used to work out in the retirement communities, so we saw our patients for decades. And the longest case I can remember is 42 years of being transfused, and the person had 20 different antibodies. So we had so much trouble trying to find blood that was compatible to keep her alive. But that just shows you that medical lab science can help keep people alive longer too. So that was mine. I don't know if anybody can top that. Probably with your genetics you can.
I probably can't top that, but as a stem cell transplant technologist, I would work with people for years and see how their treatment, their transplant helped them, and it's so funny because when you're working with these people, they're sick. They have no hair. They are typically thin and frail. And then 6 months later, you go and you meet them in the grocery store and you don't recognize them because now their hair's back, now they're healthy, they're happy, they're smiling, but they recognize you. Okay. And it's an awesome feeling to know that you are a part of their cure.
Your swag bags will include superhero capes today. It's been decided, I think, yeah? Anthony, did you want to add anything to this, or are you good? Okay. Other questions? Yes, sir. Do we have a microphone for this gentleman?
It's just more of a personal question to Julie. Why did you choose? I'm a PT major, so I just wanted to ask you, why did you choose MLS over PT?
Well, thank you for asking that question. It truly was the weather. I didn't know if I'd be able to acclimate to being up in Flagstaff for 5 years for the program. And so I really chose, I guess I was more of a homebody, and I lived on campus, but I just didn't see myself leaving the Phoenix area. So that's really the only thing. Otherwise, physical therapy, I mean, it's now at a doctoral level, totally rewarding career. And I mean, you could become your own business person and have your own clinic yourself. So the field's really opened up. But for me, it was just really more personal. It wasn't a professional decision at all. So you've got a remarkable career ahead of you. And I have a niece who's a physical therapist, if you wanted to talk with her about her career.
Be sure you get her business card before she leaves today. Just a suggestion. Little networking tip for this side. Yeah. Other questions? What do y'all think? Has this been helpful for thinking forward the next few years? Yeah. So both Professor Hansen and I, at least for the remainder of the semester, our offices may move over here. They may not, but we're over in Building 1 in the science suites on the 3rd floor. And so if I can't help you much with MLS, I don't have that degree. I might get that degree now, but I can help with lots of other stuff. And so I have my business cards, I think, too, if you need me. But we are here to help you. We are here to help you find your purpose, really, right? And to figure out how it is that you're going to make the world a better place through your everyday actions. So I hope you will join me in thanking Julie and Anthony and our surprise panel guest for sharing all this wonderful information today. I also want to thank all the great questions that were asked. I think they were really engaging and exciting. So yeah, all of you question askers, please keep asking questions. That's how you, yes, absolutely. And I think our panelists will probably be able to stick around here for a few minutes after, if anybody wants to come and talk to them, introduce themselves. Because if you're going to switch to this major and you're thinking, oh, I can get a job after I finish my 3rd year, this is how it starts. Just an idea. Yeah. Thank you all today for your time and attention and really good energy.